scratching the surface of mental wellness.
Mm.
And because as per usual, us humans are brilliant at, when we discover something or we want to, dig into something, the first thing we want to do is put it into our good or bad category, don't we? Instead of actually looking at people as individuals, we love to categorize. And to a certain extent, yes, we need categorization. It helps us make sense of the world.
Mm.
When is it too much, though? And we start putting people in all these little boxes. And yeah, I think that actually limits what we can learn about things from people in all walks of life,
100%. 100%.
Yeah.
It's well, look, I mean, we're going to be talking about the denial mindset specifically, and I think it's an important big part of emotional regulation.
Yeah.
Internally, emotional regulation and self-awareness.
Yeah.
Is so directly linked to that. One of my coaching clients, she's been looking at her products and how to set herself aside or set herself apart from all the other beauty brands and beauty products that she's coming up against. And it really comes down to self-awareness and self-care. When we were looking for feedback on using the products, the ladies that she'd given all these wonderful little packs of products to, we're waiting for the feedback, like 2.5 weeks, no feedback had come back. It was easy, and I'd set it up so it was easy. They had a little QR code on the label to scan, so it just took them to a feedback form, and they just fill it in. Guess what the feedback was, when chasing it? Can you guess?
I'm too busy.
Too busy, or I just haven't had the time. And it was like, well, I said, well, how about that? You've made the products to be used in just a 5-minute thing. You use a foot scrub for 5 minutes. Take 5 or 10 minutes to go and sit with yourself and just give yourself some self-care. So you're not doing oh, I'm too busy and I've got to take the kids to this and that, blah, 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 blah. Self-care was completely missing. And what kind of mindset is that? That's a denial mindset. It's just, people wear that kind of I'm too busy or I just don't have the time as a badge of honor almost, like, oh, I'm so busy. Oh, denying that they need to give themselves some self-care and have some self-awareness and that will help them emotionally regulate and work on all this stuff. And it's it's these 3 things: the prefrontal cortex, the amygdala, and the dopamine system. That rewarding, people seem to get rewarded. They reward themselves for being so busy and not giving themselves self-care. I mean, it goes into way bigger things, being in denial about so much stuff.
Well, it's not always about being busy, though, as well. I mean, that's one of the biggest lies we tell ourselves as well. I just possibly can't. No, I'm just far too busy. And then instead of being busy, we sit on our butt on the couch for 2 hours. Busy doing what exactly? So this comes into, when I look at the denial mindset, I look at the 2 barbs that come off it. And no disrespect to Barb. She's a wonderful woman. The 2 barbs that come off denial mindset, an internal mindset and an external part of it as well. So if we go down the internal track of a denial mindset, it's very much about denying yourself what you truly want, what you desire, what you need. And therefore, all we do on top of that is apply guilt, don't we? It's that martyrdom that we step into, and we choose that. That's the thing. We choose to deny ourselves something, and then we feel guilty about, oh no, I can't go to your, Tupperware party because I'm far too busy. I've got too much on. And then when the party's on, you don't have too much on. You actually just want to sit and not have to talk to people for a while and binge watch a TV show. And then we make ourselves feel guilty for wanting that. And yet my question is, what's wrong with that? What's wrong with finding out what recharges you? What does self-care look like for you? And the minute that we believe we're not worthy of it, we're in a denial mindset. We're denying ourselves the things that at our core we know are part of our makeup, part of what makes us tick, and simply because it might not be acceptable, like you said, it's a badge of honor, isn't it, Adam, for everyone to be so busy. If you're not hustling, then you're not doing it right. Like, piss off with that shit. Everyone has their own timeline, their own clock, their own, what's the word I want? Their own processes and methods that they take to understand and allow things to marinate, You and I can have a discussion, can't we, Adam? And it's all just pinging in your head, pop, 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 and it all makes sense. And
well, I like to think so.
Well, yeah, you like to put that out there. But, and then you'll have Ali just sitting there sort of looking off into the distance, and it's like, give me 5, I need to catch up. We have different processing styles, and neither is right or wrong. That's the thing.
There is no right or wrong.
There's no right or wrong. There just is.
Mm.
And if I was to deny myself processing time, let's call it, that's a nice term, isn't it? I need some processing time. If I were to deny myself that, then, the ramifications can be that I'm making decisions that are not in my best interest, that can go pear-shaped, that are detrimental to me. So this internal denial mindset where we think that we have to fit a certain social mold, I guess, instead of actually listening to our own flow, our own processes, our own needs, and saying, no, I'm actually not going to come to your coffee, whatever. I need some time to myself. So I'm gonna get in my DJs, grab a glass of wine, I'm gonna kick back, and I'm gonna love it.
In my DJs, I love that.
I love DJs.
Yeah.
So that's that internal Barb, which, as I said, is racked with guilt, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, it's when you think, I mean, there's a few things really. It's guilt, it's shame, it's, like all of those things. It's
expectations.
Yeah. Really, this denial mindset is a psychological defense mechanism. Do you know what I mean? We kind of use it to protect ourselves from that emotional pain or discomfort, I guess, is the way to sort of put it.
Yeah.
Which is the beauty of a glass of wine and some DJs. When you
beautiful.
Think,
Actually, if you could just finish off this episode, I'm going to go and kick off and do that now.
Yeah, I'll be there in a minute.
Yeah, if you could join me in a sec. Yeah.
Use the mindset to reject the possibility that there's a problem.
Yeah, denial.
Absolutely. Funny thing.
Funny thing.
What is denial? Yeah, absolutely. So it's that what is the real problem in recognizing or addressing the issue?
That's it. We want to pretend there's not a problem because then we feel better about it. And it all leads into that cognitive dissonance too. What we feel uncomfortable because we've got an internal conflict. So one of the ways we get out of that feeling is to pretend there's not a problem. And for a minute, we feel better. So it's an internal Band-Aid, isn't it? Really?
Band-Aid, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, all that crap's going to ooze out somewhere else. It'll just find another way to see. Yeah.
you miss the opportunities that pop up if you absolutely just buy into their glass of wine, or getting high, or all of those things that we use, or sex even. That can be another thing. We can distract ourselves with so many things that just stop us actually looking at the issue. And
Yes,
we miss all these
it's a fine,
things.
it's a fine line though, because not all. There's nothing wrong with having a glass of wine. There's nothing
Or
wrong with
having sex even.
wrong.
No,
Exactly.
exactly.
It's working
But
out
if we're doing
what's
that to avoid,
that's it. It's working out what's the reason I'm doing this, and am I ashamed of it? If you're doing it because it feels good and it's what you require at the time, and it lifts you up as opposed to limits you, or shrinks you down, then shit, yeah, go for it. Do your thing, do you, as they say. As long as you're not hurting other people in the process, then it's about time we all started to, rather than just have that lip service of, oh, well, everyone knows you've got to put the oxygen mask on the parent before you apply it to the child. That whole saying that's so popular in personal development, and you can't pour from an empty cup. We've got all these lovely sayings. It's about time they stopped being simply lip service and, Hallmark cards. How about we actually take the action and do it?
yeah,
Fill your cup first, so that you have the energy, the clarity, so that you've done the work before you start, putting it out into the world and attempting to fix or lift other people. You have to fix and lift yourself first. Yeah.
massive point. Yeah, big point.
So that's internal. Let's flick off to the external side of the denial mindset now. Now, I was thinking about that. It's that denying our needs, however, in a different way, which I think we've all seen a lot, and I've even done it. I've done it myself. I know I have. Is denying that we need help, or denying that we, don't know something, or aren't the best at something. Or again, it's about that comparison, perhaps, is the core of the external denial mindset. When we compare ourselves with other people, we develop these beliefs that I should know how to do this myself, or I should be able to do this myself, or I should be better. All this expectation that we put on ourselves, because people can point fingers all they want. It's up to us whether we accept it or not, isn't it? And so this external denial of, no, I'm fine. Thank you. No, I'm good. I don't need any help. And inside, you're like, oh God, I wish I had some help. How is that growing as a person? How is that helping you to achieve everything that you could possibly achieve if you are denying outside help? And, I had a fun conversation about this that I've used quite a lot now. For those people who don't like to accept help, they're always the ones who willing to help everyone else and yet never accept help themselves. I call them joy robbers, which
Love that.
they often don't like to hear. I used to be a joy robber, hence now why I'm so happily flippant to give it away to other people. So a joy robber essentially is this. When you ask someone who doesn't accept help, right, and yet they'll help anyone, what's the reason you help other people? Oh, because it's, they need help and it's good to help other people. Yeah, but what's the reason? What do you get out of it? It feels so good. It feels wonderful to see their faces, or feels wonderful just to be able to help out. So then when you deny someone else helping you, you're denying them that feeling. that they get when they help you. So you're robbing them of the joy because you just want it for yourself. Is that right? Oh, and doesn't that set off some bells and whistles? It's true though, isn't it?
Mm.
We help other people, whether we want to admit it or not. We help other people because it makes us feel good. We feel like we are contributing, that we are giving back, that we are useful. And all of us want to be those things, essentially, don't we? We want to be useful. So then when someone then asks, hey, can I help you with something? Is there something I can do for you? They want that feeling too. So when we deny them that, not only are we lying to ourselves, because of course we all could use a little bit of help every now and then, we are also denying that other person the joy that can come from helping. So there's so many, I think, facets to this that are not being discussed, except by us, of course, Adam.
Well, of course, absolutely. It's I mean, there's so many spin-offs, isn't there? I mean,
Yeah.
we could talk about. I mean, there's so many points in there. And like you said, what's the motivation? And again, you can tie it all back to a denial mindset. It's are we a joy robber? Yes or no? What's the real motivation for helping other people? Are we denying that really we are getting something far greater than we considered by helping other people? I had a coach once that I mean, I've always bought into having a coach in everything really. And she said to me once, well, you're an action bomber. I was like,
Oh,
an action bomber? What does that mean?
yeah. What's that mean?
Yeah. So she said, well, you're always, I used to, because I can do many things. And if somebody they said, oh yeah, I really want to do this and I want to set this up, I was like, I can do that for you. I'd go and organize it. And I'd be like, oh, here's some ideas for a logo and and a this and a that and a website, blah, blah, blah. And she said, no, how does that mean something to you? And I was like, well, because I've helped them get it all set up. And then I would get offended back then, before she brought it to my attention, I'd get offended if they didn't do anything with it. I'd be like, well, hang on, what do you mean? I've made all this stuff for you and I've helped you, and why aren't you not doing anything with it? She said, well, did you ask them if they wanted the help in the first place? And I was like, oh, actually, no. And that's the action bomber. She said, you go into this like, I'm going to help you and I'm going to create all this stuff for you. And here you go. I've set it up for you. Go for it. Because the intention I thought was just to help, but actually it was more, there was a selfish aspect to it.
Yeah.
Isn't that like, oh, look at all this stuff I've helped you with. And doesn't that make me feel great? Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my goodness me. I hadn't even thought about it from that perspective.
Mm.
And I stopped becoming an action bomber at that point.
That's so cool though. That makes so much sense. And again, let's tie it back to a denial mindset.
Yeah.
Even my husband and I have had this conversation in different ways because, I might be doing bits and pieces around the house and he'll do something and I might get annoyed at it and say, no, could you just leave that? And then he'll get annoyed and say, I'm just trying to help. And I'll say, well, what if you asked me what I need done? How you can help? Instead of making an assumption that it helps me for you to do this, this, and this.
Yeah.
And that's where we deny it as well. As the person who wants to help, we sort of deny, don't we, that we're doing it to make their life easier.
Mm.
because in essence, we're only doing the things that we want to do or that we think will help or that make sense to us. It's all very egocentric. It's about us.
Yeah.
Instead of, like you said, actually coming out and saying, well, would you like help with that? What can I do? Tell me what you would like me to do. And then the denial then it slips and it goes to the other side, because that person then has to have the courage to say, yes, I would like your help. This is what I'd like you to do. And so often they deny themselves that help by sort of, oh, no, it'd take too long to explain. It's better I just do it myself. That's that martyrdom coming in as well, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's identifying the triggers, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, and we can only really do that by increasing our self-awareness, which also involves being aware of the other people that we're sharing our environment with.
Yeah.
You know, and it's the triggers that really contribute to that denial mindset, I think. You know, it's you know, specific situations, or like I said, the people that are in our environment, the emotions that we're feeling, what are the motivations. You know, once we've identified those triggers, you know, we can work on the strategies to manage it, I think, isn't it? You know, and then challenging the beliefs.
Yeah.
Challenging the, you know, what do we, you know, it's about being open to that new information, isn't it?
Yeah.
Billy.
And that's the different types of people, the different way we process information. You know, Adam, your brain works very, very quickly in, you know, connecting the dots. You connect the dots very quickly. And I tend to be a little bit slower in connecting the dots. From personally, I can tell you, because I tend to start adding dots that were never there in the first place. You give me 3 dots to consider, and I'll add another 15 in the mix just for shit and gigs, you know, and then wonder why I'm going down rabbit holes, you know. So, yeah, getting back to what you talked about, what we're talking about, a question I learned early on to ask myself in just about every situation is I'd ask myself, what's the purpose? You know, if I want to sit down and, you know, I'm actually meant to, there's things I could do, let's put it that way. There's things I could go and do for my business or whatever, for the housework, I don't know, whatever there is. There's things I could do. And instead, I just want to, you know, sit down and read a book and have a cup of tea. If I start feeling guilty about that, I'll ask myself, what's the purpose of feeling guilty right now? And really start to become self-aware, examine my process, examine my beliefs, my thoughts. What am I resting on? And then that's the sort of stuff you take to your coach, you take to your, you know, therapist, healthcare worker, whoever you're working with, and say, you know what, I've really seen that I've got a pattern here of denying myself self-care, like you had said right in the beginning with that product, you know, that we can simplify things all we like down to a 5-minute facial, and you will still have people who will say, oh, I just don't have time for it. What's the reason you are choosing to prioritize everything else over yourself and your own needs?
Yeah.
And that's when you start to really get down to the nitty-gritty, right?
Absolutely. I love the nitty gritty, and really, and that's, you know, what we're doing with the neurology code, right? It's really, you know, considering all of the different aspects, the neurolinguistics of things, to, you know, understand, how we can generate, you know, the fast and long lasting results, you know, changes in how we think about things, to you know, really break through any blockages that are holding us back, you know, because these things are all, you know, and when you get to the top of one mountain, you've got to remember that it's just the base of the next one.
Exactly.
You know,
I love that about
you're never done.
the neurology code is all about rather than focusing on what we think, rather than focusing on that talk therapy and what happened to you, that we're not talking about the what. The neurology code focuses on the how.
Exactly. How we
And
think.
how we think. How did we come up with that belief? How did we develop that behavior? Because once we know the how, we can change it if we want. That's what gives us back the power, is the how, right?
Absolutely. It's understanding the relationship between the unconscious and the conscious, isn't it?
Yeah.
And so improve self-awareness, making better decisions, because it's all about choices. We're free to choose. We're never free from the consequences of those choices. Improved emotional regulation, so that we're not, using that as a driver for things, and it just improves everything across the board. It's really
100%.
exciting.
Yeah.